So hi everybody, it's a great pleasure to be here at Google Center in Switzerland and talk a little bit about my past, my present and my future, and share my experience so far, some of the emotions and hopefully some of the learnings as well. Well, everything started off when I was pretty short still. I was 1.5 years old when I started to ski. Can you imagine? I could barely walk and then I skied. My mom still says I actually ski better than I walk, and I must admit she's probably right. And as you can see already on this picture, I always had a big smile on my face because skiing is really the world to me. It's my first childhood memory. It's really everything I care about, and it's just the best thing there is. And I think this picture says it all. I went on to become a professional skier, started in several regional ski races, started to win national ski races on a kids level. You know, all the steps everybody does who wants to become an athlete. In skiing it means every year a new category, other athletes that you compete with, and I made step by step towards world class. Everything looked perfectly fine. When I was 14, I was one of the best in Switzerland. I was already representing Switzerland at international races. Went to a race to Sarajevo with the plane. It was an extreme experience for me, you know, going to the airport with all the luggage and everything, and then competing with the best. And I figured out I don't only love the sport and skiing and the winter, I also love the lifestyle of traveling, living out of a suitcase, and especially comparing myself to the best athletes all over the world. When I was 14, I also got my first injury. Somebody asked me before if I ever had an ACL injury. Of course I had an ACL injury, like every skier has, or almost every skier has, unfortunately. I tore my ACL at my right knee. After that, I got several complication surgeries because we just couldn't figure out what went wrong after the first surgery. Rehab was perfect. A year after, in the control, we found out that I suffered a broken patella, something that happens if you take your patella tendon as a replacement of your ACL. It happens very seldom. That's why the doctors couldn't figure it out. After that, I went through another set of surgeries, setbacks. It was a crazy time of struggle and living in a world where there was pretty much only sleeping, eating, rehab, and that was it. I wasn't skiing competitional for more than 3 years, between the age of 15 and 18. Now this is the age everybody talks about when we want to figure out who's going to make it in professional sports and who not, because it's the time where everything gets decided. And that's the time where I didn't even compete. Let's not even talk about being on the podium, because if you're not on the start, I can tell you it's pretty hard to end up on a podium. So somehow I made it through that time with the help of an amazing medical setback, like surrounding, who supported me extremely well. I was lucky enough to have a series of injuries that was interesting to the best surgeons in the world. Funny, but true. I tore my patella and my patella tendon, and because the whole structure was already pretty damaged, the whole muscle was ripped out as well. And this complicated injury is not even written down in any book. It doesn't even have a name. My doctor who fixed it is Dr. Segesser, one of the most famous knee surgeons in Switzerland, and he said he never had something like it. So you can imagine that it was a pretty big deal coming back from that. Now, 3 years later, many injuries, many setbacks, still working on my comeback and getting back to world class. And this time, not on slalom and giant slalom like I did as a kid, but on the speed disciplines. Who's skiing fan in the room? Anybody looking skiing? Okay, most. So we have different disciplines, you know that. Downhill, Super G, giant slalom, slalom. Giant slalom, slalom is a little slower, a little easier, but technically pretty amazing. And speed is speed. Downhill and Super G, it's straight down as fast as you can go. And
snowboarders can win, you know.
Exactly. And I was always a giant slalom and slalom kid because my childhood hero was Vreni Schneider. Anybody still knows Vreni Schneider? Yes, thank you. She was my childhood hero. She won everything in those disciplines. But coming back from the injury, I had two problems. First problem was my knee was so weak, and especially my fast twitching muscles were so weak that I couldn't do slalom anymore. I couldn't get out of the turn fast enough to get speed for the whole course. And the second problem, which was much bigger, was I had start bib 139, and all my friends were already gone in the next upper category because they went through the whole process of getting better in the start list 3 years. And I had none of those 3 years left. So I was there at the starting gate with the last bib. And in giant slalom and slalom, if you have the last bib, you will not even see the gate sometimes because the holes that the people in front of you have carved through the snow, they are so big that you have trouble seeing where you have to go. And I can tell you, you will lose some time. So we say 30 bibs is approximately 1 second back. So if you're starting with 139, you all can calculate very well. You wouldn't be here if you wouldn't. So I will not do the calcs for you, but I can guarantee you, you will not win a race with bib number 139. Not even Michaela Schifrin, and I think she's amazing, but not even Michaela Schifrin will win a race with bib number 139. In downhill and Super G, things are different because everybody's just going straight down. There are no holes carved in the snow, and you can win with the very last bib. And I went to Cortina for a race in downhill. All the coaches said my coach was not to let me go down there because I was already injured with 80 kilometers per hour. And now they were like, you really want to let her go 120? And we did it. And I made it to the finish, and the Italian speaker got crazy, and I got second place, and it was amazing. And the best thing about it was that I qualified for Austrian Championships. Now understanding how this slide's coming there. Sounds weird, but in skiing, national championships are always international races. And you know the fight that the Swiss have with the Austrians in skiing? Heard about it, maybe? If you never heard about it, you hear it now. It's very friendship-like, but it's still a fight. We want those points, they want our points, and we try to get there and really beat them. So when I showed up there without a team jacket, nobody knew who I was. The Austrians laughed pretty hard. They stopped laughing when I won one of the races, and I became Austrian champion, not for real, but the points were mine, and that was what counted. After that, things went crazy. I went to my first World Cup race, was clocking the best time in my very first downhill official training ever. It was a big show. The whole mountain was amazed, except for the Austrians. They said, well, she's Austrian champion, you know. They can take the positive out of everything. You got to give it to them. And then World Championships in Åre, that was one hell of an experience. I mean, going to Sweden and then racing in this scenery, which was just out of this world. And I was amazed that suddenly the people that were in TV before were standing on the starting gate with me. And I went out there and I charged the course. I got a 5th place, and I was completely devastated because I wanted that medal so bad. But if I think back now, it was my first World Champs. I got 5th. I should have been happy, but I wasn't, I can tell you. But things went great, and I was really excited. Yeah, and then I have one other big passion in my life, and it's flying. And flying for me is something so essential because it recharges my batteries. And I don't know how you guys are, but I can imagine you have pretty tough work, pretty lots to do. If I remember the timings when Vishnu sent me some mails, it was pretty late sometimes. So I think it is so important for each and every one of us to have times when you work, but also times when you can recharge your batteries, because energy is crucial, you know. And you can never do good work if you're tired and you're exhausted and there's nothing left. So to have a place where I can go and no matter what, I know I can recharge my batteries there. It's so essential to me, and that's what flying is. And yeah, if you see that picture, I hope, like the first skiing picture, it's the same, right? Big smiles and pure freedom to me. So flying is where I get the energy to make the next big steps, and next big steps led me to Sochi. After another 8 or so injuries, there were constant struggles still when I was in World Cup. Every time I looked out of the hole, you know how you feel when you look out of a hole after you digged deep and you think, now I'm gonna make it, now I'm gonna make it. There was another hammer coming. And I really thought that this was just the story of my life. And then I was in Sochi, and the night before the race, I was constantly thinking that, why should it be like that, right? And then suddenly I was like, you know what? The 17-year-old Dominique would be so ashamed if she could see you now complaining about having the biggest chance of her life. And then something switched inside me, and I knew, okay, if I have this chance to win this medal, I so want to do it. And the day after I got that gold that I was working for such a long time, and it was, yeah, such a wonderful day. And it means so much to me because, of course, a gold is a gold and it's always the same color. But mine was really drowned in blood and sweat and tears, many tears. And it means so much more to you to achieve something like that after all the struggles and all the setbacks and all the fights I had to go through in my life. So, yeah, that's Sochi. And then what was next? I needed a new challenge, right? I was always about going for my full potential. You ever had that feeling that what is like getting you up in the morning is like just exploring how far can I go? How good can I become in what I do? And in skiing, there was a point after Sochi where I realized there is nothing left I can adapt. There is nothing left I can adjust to get better. I have nothing left for the next summer to change to become a better skier. And it's not about the results, because yes, of course, I could have waited for another 2 or 3 years and hoped that some would retire and some would maybe get injured, because it's pretty common in our sports, unfortunately. But it's about what fulfills me, and it's not the black and white results in the end. Those are the things that are watching out that I can pay my food in the end of the month, right? And I know figures and facts are important, and we all have to set goals and then show that we accomplish those goals. But what is getting me up in the morning is really exploring how far can I go? How far can I become a better skier? And now how far can I go with my studies? And I always wanted to study physics. And I don't know how I came to the idea to go to ETH. I don't know if it was the best idea of my life. It sure was 3 years of new challenges that didn't feel much less energy taking than all the skiing and all the injuries before. And it was a completely new setup. If you go studying with almost 30 and half of your class is 15-year-old super kids who just finished their high school early, I can tell you it's a challenge. And I remember in the first month, I was sitting there and I never knew if I should listen to the professor, if I should try to understand what he's talking about, or if I should just write down whatever he is saying. And I knew that I had to choose one, because two simultaneous is just impossible. And I most times ended up with doing nothing and just getting stressed out that I could not figure out what was the best to do. So it was completely different. And then also, before I was a skier and I was outside every day in the weather. And of course it's tough when you go outside and it's raining and you have to train all day. But then studying at ETH and being inside all day and never even seeing the sun or what the weather was like wasn't much better either. So it was the complete opposite. Living in the city to living in the mountains, sitting down all day to before training 45 hours a week or something. It was, if you could have had the opposite of my life as a skier, that was it. And my body struggled with it. My hormones struggled with it. I could not deal with it. I was completely overwhelmed. And only after a year I figured out, okay, I have to find a way in between. I need to move my body. I can't just do all the homework until I go do some sports, because I don't know how many of you studied at ETH, but I'm pretty sure you all studied at crazy universities. And I never finished my homework in 3 years. There was always something left to do. So if I would have waited for it, I would never have done any sports. And I realized I need to do sports just to recharge my batteries again, and also to give my body some movement. I mean, it's crucial, right? And I just finished my studies, my Bachelorette this summer, and I will take a break from ETH. And of course, skiing is still my passion. I mean, I love skiing, I love snow. This is the time of the year. I just hope the temperatures drop. And I understand each and everyone living in the city that doesn't feel like that, but you just should come up to the mountains a bit more in winter. It's pretty amazing. So I'm still skiing 50 days plus a year. I'm joining my sister on her path to also hopefully a lot of World Cup podiums. She also became Olympic champion last year, something super crazy to have two Olympic champions in the same family. And to share the emotions was something that will always stay in my heart, because as an athlete you just always have this filter of pushing down your emotions a little bit so you can perform at your best. And if you're the sister, you can just let it out. You can live the emotions, which is something very, very beautiful. And now a new challenge since October 1st. So pretty much at the beginning, I got new work. I'm sharing management of the Stiftung Schweizer Sporthilfe. It's the biggest organization in Switzerland who supports our top athletes. Very crucial support. We're sharing Urs Wietlisbach, Bernhard Häusler, Doris Rechsteiner and me doing the management together. Doris Rechsteiner is doing it for many years, and we appreciate her amazing experience, and she helps us get all our crazy ideas into the right direction. And the support of our presidents Urs and Bernhard is amazing. They are both sports fanatics like we all are, and we're really hoping that we can move something. What do we have to move? In Switzerland, top athletes are paid completely different than in other countries. Most countries have systems where the athletes are somehow employed by government in any kind of way. In Switzerland it's different. We support them on 3 pillars. We also have the Swiss Bund Federation, who is supporting us through the lottery money, which is extremely important for us. And then we have, of course, a lot of business who is supporting us. And we have each and every one of you who hopefully will join this movement, because we believe that we all should do something, so we will still have the emotions and the experience of having Swiss top athletes also in the future, and that we can sit in front of TV and cheer them on, because we have to find another way than in other countries. Yeah, these are some figures. How many athletes do we support? It's over 900 athletes, most top athletes who get supported very broadly, and then also a lot of young athletes who we support on their way to the top, which is a crazy struggle. You just heard some of my struggles, and you can imagine how hard it was for my family to find the financial support to get 3 kids to the top. My brother is in World Cup too, and there are many families like that who really try to find a way, and it's not always easy to find the money, especially now that sports is getting more and more professional on a very young level already. And we really try to give the athletes also the peace of mind, and the parents the peace of mind that they have a support system and the back net who is holding them up, so they can focus on what is most important to get their performance and to go and get some more medals. Yeah, the figures are always crazy, like how many athletes are well below wage minimum. It's really astonishing also for us. Every year we do the figures, and it's not changing much, so we really have to support them, and we have to find a way to give them the security to support them in doing their job and do what they can do best. So I thank you very, very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to talk to you, some about me, some about our amazing organization, an organization that was a part of the Swiss medals in Pyeongchang last winter. We can see 2 of our medal winners. Those who followed the Olympic Games might recognize Mathilde Grömo and Sarah Höflin, both medaled at the women's slopestyle event, gold and silver, and all the Swiss medal winners were supported by Sporthilfe. So the money is really going to those athletes that need it, and those athletes that are working hard and going for the medals. And 95% of all athletes that were at the Games for Switzerland were supported by our organization. And I think this is, those are the nice figures that we like to tell and that we are also very proud of. So thanks for your attention, and hopefully now we're going for some super interesting questions. I'm excited.
So I think we have some Dory questions already. Questions people submit before. So what techniques did you use to overcome mental blocks after your injuries?
Different ones. And I think the most interesting part about it is not what tools I used, but that I had to figure out after every injury a new tool. Because not 2 injuries were alike. There were injuries where I came back without no mental problems. And I was thinking, well, what is this mental barrier that everybody's talking about? I don't know what it is. And then there were other injuries, and sometimes there were really minor injuries where I struggled so hard. And I had to find a way, and there were different strategies. We did externalization, that I really talked sometimes with my respects. We did desensibilizations, where I visualized a lot of races without trying to crash. You know, I had times where every time I would visualize a run in my mind, I would end up in a net. And it's not what you're looking for, right? You really want to go to the finish. So then I had to train. I had to train my mind to think the right things. And I think two most important points regarding this question is always figure out a way, and always question if the one way that worked the last time will still work this time. to overcome a mental barrier. And then the other is, it's mental training. It's not mental magic. You cannot think, I will do it one time and then everything is good. It's not working like that. You really have to sit down and do it every day and use the techniques that you find in a lot of books, and there's tons of great and amazing motivation books. There's tons of great and amazing mental books. But the thing is, you got to do it yourself. You cannot just read the book and then everything is done. You know, it's not working like that. First on a groomed slope or a big powder day. These days, no question, always powder days. And probably it always was like that. I mean, of course, before skiing was my job, and then you just had those times where you had to do your job. And I always loved my job. But on a free day, I would always prefer powder, for sure. If you live in Engelberg, you have to. I would get exiled from my village if I would say something else. I'm pretty sure I would.
You don't want that.
No, I don't want that either.
It was actually this past year you said that your sister won the gold medal.
Yes.
So what was that moment like?
It was pure emotions. And as I said before, it was much more emotional than my own victory, because I was able to allow the emotions. When I won, I was still somehow in the adrenaline of the race, and you know, I was extremely happy and I was crying and everything, but it was not as quick after the race. It took me some time to realize everything and to put everything in order. And now with my sister, I mean, I already knew when we were going there that she had a pretty big chance to win that race. And then I followed her whole journey very closely, and the last 24 hours were nuts. I mean, she crashed in the downhill the day before in the finish, and the day after was that race that we built up everything for in the past 3 years. And then you are right there, right beside her, and you cannot do anything. I cannot hold her hand when she's skiing, and I cannot ski myself. She's doing it better anyway, so I don't have to. And then you just sit there, and after we had the downhill, she did really good downhill, and then the slalom came, and before the slalom run, the American moderator asked me how I felt about my sister, and I said she's gonna win or she's gonna straddle, because in slalom you can always straddle, but I was so sure. And then I was just hoping that she would not straddle, because it can always happen in slalom, right? So every gate like, no, and then yes, yeah, it was beautiful.
My question is, it seems that skiing is always about winning. If you not score first place, second place is already losing, it seems to me. So 2 questions. Number one is, what happened if in Sochi you had second place and not first place? And the second question is it a good thing to become second best of the world at the Olympics or not?
I think it's with all single sports like that, right? It's first, and then there's pretty much nothing after for the public response. And I'm saying that. So nobody remembers who was second in cycling world championships 4 years ago. Do you remember? I don't remember. Somebody remembers? Maybe if you're a super hardcore fan, but most people don't. Now the question that is maybe more interesting is, what does it mean to you as an athlete? And I think for me as an athlete, as I said before, is the most valuable thing if I can perform at my best, if I can ski at my full potential, and if I have a run like that, I'm happy. And then what the board says is something else. And of course, you want the board to be pretty much in line with your own feelings. But if you ever have the chance to review Sochi, my run, I'm coming to the finish, and I knew that day that I had a big chance to win. I just knew it. I was on the start, I was super nervous, I was sick because I pushed myself really to that point where I could be fast again in speed. And it took me a lot of energy because after all the injuries, my body just refused to be fast in speed. And it refused to lose control. And you need to lose control if you want to win a downhill, part of the control. But part of the control you have to give up. So in that position on the starting gate, it's not a comfortable place. I felt really sick and I felt tired. The last thing that was in my mind was, I'm tired. And it's in the starting gate, not in the finish, okay? And then, but this is the mental part. Then the body was fit and the body executed perfectly, automatic, because I built it up 4 years for that moment. And then I promised myself in the start, if you come down, you look down at the snow and you think for a second, was it all I was able to give? Did I execute like I wanted to? If the answer is yes, I have to live with whatever is on that board. I have to. Of course I can complain afterwards and 100's there. And I mean, we were same timing, Tina Maas and me, 0, 0, 0. It's pure luck. It's pure luck. I'm not gonna tell you anything else. It's pure luck. I could have been 0, 0, 1. It's pure luck. And we knew it's gonna be a tight race because we had 5 training runs. Everybody knew the course. Everybody was adapted to the conditions. Everybody had the skis adapted to the conditions. We knew it's gonna be hell of a tight race. That was clear. And I'm not saying 1/10 was luck, but 100, it's pure luck. And that's what I wanted to make sure for me as a person and as an athlete, that I could live with it. Because as you said, in the end, it's just gold and then nothing else. And I'm confident to say that I think I could have lived with silver just as well. And not, the public response would have been otherwise. I wouldn't be at Google today, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. But to me as an athlete, what is the most valuable is the path and all the experience I took with me through all these years. And I can tell you, these days I still have flashbacks. I have so many flashbacks of my former life. I'm sitting somewhere and I'm thinking, oh, I'm in Ushuaia and it's raining and I'm training, or I'm in Lake Louise, it's minus 32 degrees, it's just too cold. I had not one single flashback when I was standing on the podium in Sochi, never. Not one single dream. Because as a person, it's, of course, what the public thinks of me is important. But as a person, it's not the thing that was most important. The thing that was most important was that I was able to push myself to that point, to that sick feeling on the start. That is the flashback I get, because that is my achievement. And then the black-white result and the gold medal, that's karma, or that's, in the end, pure mechanics. You can figure it out by physics law. But to me, the valuable thing is really the journey and the feelings I put in there, the energy I put in. Does it answer the question? It was a long answer, but I think it's a very important question that has no short answer for me.
On a similar note, since you participated in several tourneys in many areas, any loss or performance that hurt you the most?
Loss of performance that...
Or a loss, or basically any performance in all your tourneys that hurt you the most in terms of how the performance turned out?
Oh, very easy. Vancouver 2010, the Olympics, it was heartbreaking. I mean, I was so sure I'm gonna medal there. Before the season, I had an amazing season the year before, had my first 2 World Cup victories, everything was set up. We started to train in summer. I was starting to be almost as fast as the men's team. The men's coaches started to record me. That was the biggest achievement I ever had, when the men's coaches started to film me. And then we had one super fast ski, and we were so confident for the Olympics, we put it aside. I didn't use it for one single World Cup race because we just wanted to be sure that it was still okay at the Olympics. And the season started off well, I podiumed, I did great results, and then we went to house, horrible weather, just one single training, and I always used that was one of the methods mentally that I used the trainings to adapt myself to the slope. So I was always pretty slow in training, just to get the right feeling with the slope. And when I felt comfortable, I was able to charge. And then in the training, I was super slow. And we had only one training. Usually we had 2 or 3. And then in the race, I was 30 kilometers per hour faster than in the training. And I couldn't handle the situation. I got over the last roller and crashed, tore my meniscus. And also, I didn't tear my ACL, but I injured it pretty badly. I got surgery the same evening because we had only 4 weeks left to the Olympics. And I did not lose hope 1 single second. I was still believing in that medal all the journey through. Next day in the gym, I did everything for that pass back. 2 weeks later, I was on the start of a World Cup race. And it was crazy. I mean, for me, it was like, okay, 2 weeks ago I was in the surgery room and now I'm at the start of a World Cup race. And still I was able to handle it. I was 17th at that first race, which was amazing 2 weeks after the surgery. And then I went to Vancouver and I still believed I could medal. Not 17th, which already would have been crazy, but I wanted to medal. Then again, horrible weather, only one training. And then I still believed in it. The hill was crazy because it rained so hard that it iced up in a way that everything was shaky. And then I got over the last roller of the race and I got there with the fastest split time and I crashed 5 meters before the finish line. I was like, that cannot be right. I mean, if it would have been a poker game, I would have bet my house, my car, like everything I own, okay, my soul on that race. And then I was lying there in the finish area with a concussion and I could not believe it. And that's the one single time in my career where I really was like, I'm not gonna make it anymore. It's just too much. And then fortunately I had surroundings that supported me. I had organizations that supported me. And they got me out of this moment. And that's also something super important. You will not be able to manage all the setbacks yourself, probably. And it's always good to have somebody, a net behind you that just keeps you standing up. Yeah.
So who is in that net, that support system for you?
My family is super important to me. Especially having siblings that have the same dream and also went the same path was absolutely crucial because I never had to explain myself at home. I mean, I understand each and every one who's asking me, why the hell did you do that? I mean, sometimes looking back, it was pretty crazy, but it was also amazing that neither my parents, nor my grandparents, nor my siblings would ever ask me that question. Because they just knew why. Because they have the same passion, they have the same fire burning in them. And it's crazy to do top sports. It's just a huge risk that you take. And you're going out there and you're competing, and as you said, only the very best will survive. And that's one single person. It's not 2, it's not 3, it's not 10 in the world. Think about it. Think about if you would have to compete with each and every one in the world who is doing your job, would you be top 30, top 20? I don't know. I mean, I would not be top 30 in my job. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. So if you do sports, only that counts. And even for that, you have to fight as hell to, as we saw before, to have an income that is minimum in our minds, which is crazy for me. And the value that the athletes create for us, I mean, probably each and every one, otherwise you wouldn't be here, once was sitting in front of a TV and loving sports and loving the emotions that they gave us and loving the experience of how sports is bringing us together, no matter if you're Swiss or Austrian or American or wherever you come from. It's just, it's such a value that is created. And I think this value should also be valued, you know? I mean, and that's something which is super important. And then for me, I had that in my surroundings, but that's not every athlete has a family like mine. It's not something that you can take for granted. And also not every family has the possibilities to finance something like that for 3 kids, which is super crazy, you know. So, and my parents did amazing sacrifices. If I look back, and I think, I mean, we were not in vacation for many years. And I never thought about it because for me, it was perfect as it was, but to my parents, it was a choice. And my parents choose to support us and choose to live all these crazy emotions with us. And I think they never regret it. but still, it's a choice. And not every parent would take that choice. So, yeah.
Do you want to ask a question, Mike, so we can hear it?
My question relates to risk. So basically, downhill is a very, very fast sport with a non-negligible chance that you will either seriously hurt yourself or even die. Were there, and you probably had like hundreds, if not maybe even thousands of training runs where you achieved those speeds. Were there times when you pushed yourself so hard and when you were so tired that you lost pretty much most control and you felt like, at this point, I'm behaving in a way that doesn't respect my life, and I should never do such a thing again. Yeah. So,
I think it was more when I was young, probably, especially because the path that I went through was a very special one. Because I missed all this time where young athletes are built up between 15 and 18, where they get adapted to the speed. Usually you don't come, my sixth downhill race of my life, not World Cup race, like 6th downhill race of my entire life was a World Cup race. It's not what you should do with athletes, really not. And the problem for me was because I put myself in this crazy situation with all the injuries I had no more choice if I wanted to pursue my dream. Because there was nobody waiting for me. I can tell you there are a lot of talents in Switzerland when it comes to skiing. Of course, we would always take more, but we have a lot of talent. So when I got injured, there was pretty fast somebody else who took my spot as the best in my age group, and then the second best, and so on. So when I wanted to come back, I had to take every chance that there was. And of course, there were some chances that when I look back at them, I'm like, how would I ever come to the idea to do it? My first downhill was on a World Cup slope. It was a FIS race, like a race a little below World Cup, but on the slope after the World Cup. And that's why I got a spot, because nobody wanted to race there. Yeah, it's true. And then what should I have done? Then I took the spot and I went there with my last bib. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, we watched that video these days and we laughed so hard. But actually it's not funny because I was completely out of control. I had no idea what I was doing. My skis were just going down the hill with me. And somehow I ended up on second place. Nobody knows why, but it saved my career. So would I do it like that? No, that's why I accompany my sister, because I don't want her to get in the same situations. And because I was so much back in the whole development. I had that knife on my throat for a very long time. Then with the first World Cup race, first World Championships, I felt I had to medal. I was there and I felt like a complete failure when I was 22 years old and I didn't medal at the World Championships. And that was the problem, you know. And when you're young, you get in these situations. And of course now I'm 30 plus and I look back and I'm thinking, what the hell was I thinking? It was super irresponsible. But back then I just wanted to race. And I would nobody take that chance away from me. And I was lucky enough to have injuries which weren't that serious, which helped me extremely to deal with it, because for me, the pain I felt in my heart and my soul when I wasn't able to ski was always bigger than the pain I had in my knees. And that's why choice was pretty easy, paired with the naivete of youth, I'd say. And sometimes it's good to be young, you know. And it's tough, I know, and skiing has horrible accidents, and for the whole community it was black days what happened last year. We lost 2 colleagues on the slopes, and I mean, I would not think about that every day, I must admit, before that this was really possible, because we didn't have deathly injuries in decades. And now we had 2, and it's a slam in your face, and you start to think different. And I hope that we will be able to support our athletes in a way that we don't have to put them in situations like I was, that they just have a better build-up, because you only get in situations like that if the ladder is somehow broken.
Hair jumping step.
Yes, because if you look today at Julia Steingruber or Ariela Kesing, the gymnasts, or also Simone Biles, for those who don't know the Swiss ones, if I look at them, I think they're completely nuts. I mean, if I would try to do that, I would die, for sure, right? But they were built up like that for decades, and their bodies were built to learn that. But you can only do that if you do that in tiny steps. So I think it's super important to have support systems where the athletes can develop in a way where you don't put them in situations like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Equal opportunity, equal pay between genders, but also, you know, cultural background is a big topic in our industry, many other industries as well. I'm wondering, what's the situation in professional skiing, and how do organizations like Sporthilfe tackle the problem?
Yes, of course, it's a big issue, and especially as a woman, I feel it's an important issue. I think we all work the same way, we should get paid the same way. I'm lucky enough to come from a sport which is pretty big in female, just like male. We have years already, 10, 15 years back, where the international TV quotes were better at the women's races than at the men's. I don't think there are many sports like that. So we had years where there were more spectators worldwide for the women's races than the men's races. I was once at World Championships, I loved it, where the women's downhill was the most important race because Anja Persson was a legend and a hero in Sweden, and the women's downhill was on a Sunday. So I think we are in skiing at a very lucky position compared to other sports, but I think we all have to work towards that, and we can only work towards that as a community, and that's for me is something super crucial, something which should be natural, but also something that will take some time. I think we have to keep the patience and at the same time never lose the goal out of our minds. And of course, an organization like us is not making any difference. That is sure the first big thing, because for us there is no difference in women's and men's athletes, and I think in the future it will be like that. But we also have to admit that, as I said, there are still differences in numbers of athletes. So we need more girls in sports, and that's also something which we have to bring into the minds of the parents. That's why all this support that Sporthilfe is providing is super important also for the society, because in the end it's the parents who decide if their kids are getting into professional sports. And if the parents are afraid of the risk of an injury or afraid of the risk of what this means financially to their kids in the future, then we will not get a lot of kids into sports, be it male or female. So we have to find a way to support the athletes in a proper way, such that, I mean, I hear parents saying, and I have to say it in German, forgive me, sie müssen einen anständigen Beruf lernen. something, I don't know the English word.
To learn a solid profession.
A solid profession. I feel offended by that. I mean, sorry, if a professional athlete who is amongst the top 30 in what he is doing of all world, if that is not a solid profession, I don't know what is, you know? And you create a value that is so important for the society. And if we still have parents who think that, then we have to work, because we should work that they think it's a solid profession, be it for a girl or for a boy. Yeah.
What advice would you give to your 14-year-old self?
Yeah, when you look back, you're always smarter, they say. I wouldn't change too much. I probably would try to take away the knife from the throat in my mind a little more, because I had much more time than I thought I have left. But that's only possible with the experience. So if I would be 14 again, I probably would do it all over and just hope that I wouldn't get injured so much. Maybe change some of, yeah, no, I mean, in the retrospective, you're just smarter, but I don't feel I made a really bad decision. And it also ended up here, you know, and I got to do so many things only because I got injured. I would never have gotten into flying if I would not have gotten injured, because I just went to do it because I was injured. And then I had spare time because school was a bit boring without having the sports aside, and I went into flying, and now I'm a pilot and it's amazing. So, you know, everything is going as it should, and I'm super happy with my life. So I would just say go for it to my 14-year-old self. Yeah.
What triggers you? Competitors, your own will, or refuse from somebody that you cannot do this? What is the trigger for you?
My trigger was always finding my own boundaries. I love the feeling when your body is doing exactly what it should do. When you train for something for 4 years and then you ski down the slope, and every single movement, even of your little toe, is just perfectly, and you're exactly in the moment. You always also have those times where you work, and then 4 hours later you realize 4 hours passed and they just went by, right? And I feel like these moments when I'm completely myself and completely there, they are so valuable. And I always experience that when I really push my boundaries. And I got to a place where I just have to function, and I don't have the extra amount of energy left to think about what I do. I just have to do it. So for me, it was always about experiencing those moments where I'm at my absolute best or at my absolute max, where I just perform at my max level. And that's something which kept me going through times where I had no podiums, because as I said before, when you don't start, you will not get a podium. But it was also something that maybe shortened my career, because in the end, I could not get motivated by adding more victories to the board when I was not finding something to push my limits further. And just to stay where I was at, and to stay at the level I was at, and wait for more victories and for more medals, it was not something that triggered me. But as you pointed out, pretty subtle, I think it's something very important that everybody has their own trigger. And it's super important to know your triggers, because it's what gets you up in the morning. So be aware of what gets you up in the morning. It helps you to get up in the morning.
But do you feel still the fire inside you to this topic?
I will always feel the fire about skiing. And now it's not anymore about skiing fast down the hill, but it's about the powder days and just enjoying those turns when I'm just... And I always ski with people, or most time I ski with people that are better than I am in powder skiing. And that pushes me extremely. And then I'm again in a situation where I have to really be at my max to just cope up with them. And that's again, this amazing feeling. And other areas of my life, I'm still far away from my max, I think. I'm far away from being my max pilot. I'm far away of being my max CEO. So I'm really looking forward to challenge myself every day and to hopefully experience that fire in those areas just as well. But it would be crazy to expect the same fire, because it was an extremely big fire that kept me going. So I have to be thankful to have other fires.
I think that's all we have time for. Thank you so much. I think it's so easy to see a profile like yours and be intimidated and think, what have I done? But to leave after your talk feeling so inspired and seeing how incredible you are, thank you so much for taking the time to share all your stories with us, answer all of our questions. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for giving me so much attention and for also thinking about amazing questions. I think we had some questions today that I never had before, so that's always very, very valuable. And also never be intimidated. I feel like every single one is doing their pause, and I'm amazed by what you guys are doing. I mean, if I see my colleagues at ETH programming, and I'm still Hawk. You ever seen Hawk programming? Like, it's not that bad. It got better, but I always felt like 10 code lines for me were like 3,000 for my colleague students. So that is amazing to me, and that's what it's all about, like finding your own limits in your own path, with your own fires, with your own triggers, and really leave your trail wherever it is. So I think that's something that each and every one of us can do. I don't feel it's super special. Each and every one has super special things. So go for it. Tell your 14-year-old, go for it.